Question 1 of topic 1. This problem is about a survey, and it's about getting the answer to a mean. How many hours do you spend on a typical day? Now notice an error that some people might make is to just say, oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And 8 and 9. Oh, there are hours 1 through 9. So if I add up 1 through 9 and divide by the 9 things, I get 5 as an average, right? But that's just the average of the answers. The average of the options. There are a different number of people under each option. 5 would only be the answer if you had exactly the same number in each of those categories 1 through 9. That's why this wrong answer, 5, is here. And talking about how it's wrong helps with thinking about how to get to the right answer, right? 5 would only work if everything was equal, but they're not. So what you do is you have to realize that there are each category 1 through 9 has a different amount of influence on the result according to the weight. The weight is just how many there are of each. So that's exactly what we do. We go 3 said 1 hour, so it's 3 times 1. That group contributed 3 hours total. And then we add 5 said 2 hours. That's the weight of 5 times the result of 2. So you can already see the 2s count more than the 3s. So even if it was just 1s and 2s, it wouldn't be 1.5. It would be 3 times 1 times 5 plus 5 times 2, right? There's more 2s than 3s. So the average is going to be moved over towards the 2 because 2 has more weight. It's almost like a balance beam. Well, do all the multiplication and come through. I won't show the work. I'm sure you can do that on your calculator or, by hand. 1 times 9, I'll note that at the end. And of course, there aren't 5 categories, so we have to divide by all the sum of the weights, right? All the entries, and that's, of course, 90 respondents. It's called a weighted average. It just means you don't have the same number of things as categories. Each category has a different amount, so you weight the average by the amount in each category, and of course, you divide by the total amount, the 90. And that's why the answer reduces to, I think, 4/9, something with 4/9. I think it's 40/9, which, after reduction. So it was probably something like 400 over 90, and that reduces to 40/9, which is 4 with 4 left over, so 4 and 4/9, 4.44. Repeating, which rounds to 4.44. So that's the answer. Don't exactly know where 0.5 would come from. Maybe that's the standard deviation or the weighted standard deviation. But 4 is the median. 25 is the largest number in any category. So 4 is the most common answer, but that's not the mean, that's the median. So that's another wrong answer that's designed to be tricky. It's distracting you. Like, is the mean, right? If you've got the definitions of mean, median, and mode confused, then you might think 4 is the right answer. There it is. If you thought mean was median or median was mean, mode was mean, then you'd say 4. You'd see a 4 on the list, you'd take it, and then you'd move on thinking you did fine. For praxis, you have to know exactly what's going on. It can't be approximate. This problem is asking for us to compute a median, right? Mode, median, mean. They're similar because they're all measures of center, but they're all different. So median means like literally the middle, kind of like I think of the lines that you see on a street. That's called the medians, right? The median lines are the dotted lines, the solid lines to tell you whether it's safe to pass or not. That's the middle of a road. So middle of the data. So think about the 9, right? You want the one piece of data in the middle, which means that there'd be 8 left. So for to find the middle, you'd need 4 over here, 4 over here, 4 lower and 4 higher, and 1 in the middle. So, right, if you're counting to the middle, you'd count the 5th from the bottom. Also 5th from the top, same thing, because you found the 1 in the middle. Now, of course, if you do that without reordering the data, if you just look at the data and go, oh, let me figure out what the 5th one is, right, you'll get that. And of course, you'll be wrong because you forgot to put them in order. But notice how that wrong answer is there, right? Can't be sloppy. You've got to be careful because on the praxis, things are designed so that if you're sort of in the vicinity of the answer, what you thought of as the answer will show up on the multiple choice list. It differentiates understanding, sort of, in the vicinity from truly understanding. So you've got to push yourself to be truly understanding. Okay, so we have to put them in order. That's a manual process. So 1, I check them off as I write them. Then there's 2 5s. Then there's 6. Then there's 7. And I can stop there because that's the 5th one. And I know the 5th one is the median when there's 9 entries. Now I might want to just double check. Are there 4 left? 1, 2, 3, 4. Beautiful, there are 4 left. So 7's definitely the answer. You might wonder why 6.5 and 7.5 are distractors here. That's because something weird happens when there's even. Like if there were 10 instead, right? Alternate scenario, then to be in the middle, right? The middle would need, well, there is no middle. It's blank because there's 5 here and 5 here, right? To split it in half, you have to be in between values. So this is the 5th, counting up, and this is the 6th, right? So the idea is that you take the average of those two. That's the best you can do when you have no entry. You just go halfway in between the 2 values that are closest to the middle, right? There's no one value that represents the middle. So you take the average of the 2 closest, right? And that's what's going on here. I think the 6.5, the 7.5, they might be the answers that you get if you accidentally think you've got to go halfway between, right? 6 is halfway between 6 and 7, right? That'd be figuring it out there. I suppose the 7 and the 5 would be the 7 and the 8, right? That's the next one. So those are the 2 wrong answers for being imbalanced, to going halfway when you don't need to. And, as you can see, 9 and 10 are great examples. If it's odd, then you can balance perfectly. When you take away the median, it's an even number left. Perfect split. If it's even, there's a perfect split to start with. So the middle has got to be between 2 values. So you can remember how to do that. You can even, think of it as a formula. For 9, you went 5th. For 10, you went 5.5 between the 5th and the 6th. So you can always add 1 to the size, divide by 2, and then, go to that number, right? I'll put at the end. So 5th, 6th, right? That value, that's your median. So we eliminated this and that as plausible wrong answers if you get your evens and odds mixed up.